of sim racing in Singapore heads to the home of British motorsport at Silverstone Circuit for round 4 of the Sim Racers Asia Assetto Corsa Community Series. Among the most storied Grand Prix circuits in the world, Silverstone has seen so much in motor racing, and it will see SRA crowd through this mid-season madness that is due to unfold. Welcome to Sim Racing Singapore's coverage of the SRA Assetto Corsa Community Series Season 12 here on the Asia Sim Racing Federation. It is mid-season and the drivers have gone well into the heat of the battle. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming aboard Max Palmer from Adrenaline Impact to cover this special round. Max, in some ways, this is your home Grand Prix. Could you tell us more about what to expect racing here?
Absolutely. One of the highest average speeds you'll find on the Grand Prix racing calendar. It is a little bit slower than it used to be back when these 2007 VRC cars, or well, the real-life Formula 1 cars that these are based off, would have run around here. But in any case, it is going to be a spectacular race regardless. Even on the new layout, it is very high speed and a lot of high speed and medium speed bits that's really going to challenge the drivers when it comes to looking for balance and grip, and a lot of great overtaking opportunities as well. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, that's great to hear. So let's just have a quick look at how the season has progressed thus far. So of course we are at the 4th week of racing here at Silverstone Circuit. It is the 12th of April. We are at round 4, and what that means is that already the drivers have kind of had their commitment through halfway through the season. That means they've already gotten some pace in. That just means that later on in the season, next week and the week after, we'll go to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve and Interlagos that will end the season. Having a look at the driver standings, Chua Sing Han leads the tables for the driver standings with 49 points, with Amir Haziq not too far behind at all, very close indeed, with 46 points. Aikhan is in 3rd and Sam is in 4th, 32 and 30 points, with Chris Chong tied with Sam for 4th place in the tables with 30 points for each driver. Over at the team standings, Alpha Simulation leads the tables with 76 points and Alpha Simulation 2 with 62 points. So great performance by Alpha Simulation throughout this season. Blue Steel Racing, 51 points in 3rd. Brad TM Racing, which they both of them running McLaren liveried cars, they have 42 points and they are 4th in the team's tables. And Blue Steel Racing 4 with 28 points in 5th.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be an incredible season so far. The top two are only a couple of points apart, and you have to remember 3rd, 4th and 5th do actually have a fighting chance of still keeping on board when it comes to actually fighting for the championship. And we all know how variable Silverstone can be in terms of track conditions and things like that, so it's going to be very interesting to see how all of this heads out. I think we're going to see maybe even an upset when it comes to what's going to happen in the championship standings. But in any case, this track and this race is going to really be important for everyone's championship aspirations, isn't it?
Most certainly. So, in fact, the drivers have made their way out for qualifying. The drivers all heading out together. So, unlike what we're used to seeing elsewhere, it is open qualifying for all of the drivers. So, one thing for sure is that they will have the benefit of one another's slipstream to use. But of course, you'll have to also be able to manage the traffic as you race along here.
Yeah, it is really going to be very difficult. I think the opening section of corners, this is on the brand new layout, I guess, so we've got the Abbey and Village sections to look forward to. Also Stowe and the run up through there, the Hangar Straight, a lot of slipstreaming opportunities to look forward to. As we can see here coming out there, that's Chuan Yip on his outlap, dancing around the track here. The interesting part about this is that this track, I think, has so much more high-speed corners than virtually any other track on the calendar. These are the S's here, Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Very, very high speed, all about commitment, all about getting the aero balance right. But too much aero and you're going to have a problem actually trying to catch the cars ahead coming into the braking zone here for Stowe Corner. So it's really going to be very, very interesting to see how the different, how the drivers sort of handle the different situations here.
Sure will be. And I think what, I was just speaking with some of the drivers over the past week about what their thoughts would be of Silverstone. And I think one of the recurring themes I found was that, of course, one being that the track has quite a high average speed, but Also, the fact that the track does not exactly have much elevation changes, it's mostly flat throughout, and that kind of takes a bit of character away from the track. Of course, this being an airfield circuit, like quite a number of tracks in the UK, it is to be expected. But that doesn't mean that there won't be exciting racing, because once you have a lot of cars, Formula 1 cars especially, these drivers will still be able to put up a good show nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. The home of British Motorsport, Silverstone was one of the first few tracks that was actually built around an old RAF airfield. The land was going for cheap, and they decided that amongst other tracks, like Thruxton and a few other places like that, Silverstone was sort of selected as being really particularly interesting. It had a very unique layout, especially with the outside roads, the outer perimeter roads there. And that sort of gives it a very strange character in that it is very flat, very open, but also there's a lot of places there where if you haven't got your racing line just right, you haven't got the braking points just right, or if you're trying to fight or go alongside someone through some of these corners, you will find yourself in a situation where the corner comes up a little tighter than you expect it to be. It was designed in the 50s and has been modified ever since, and you can tell with this sort of track. Every single corner has been reprofiled or changed slightly, and there's not the sort of geometry that you expect from a track like Yas Marina or tracks like that. As you can see through the opening section here, this is brand new. This was designed by Dromo alongside the BRDC, and this new section looks quite modern. It has a fairly modern feel through it, but once you go underneath the bridge here and into the braking zone for this section made in the 90s, so you've got the Luffield complex of corners coming up towards Woodcote here, and then you fire off towards Stowe, which is one of the original corners on the track, hosting Formula 1 races since 1950. In fact, the very first Formula 1 race was held in Silverstone, and you can tell there's so many different weird, strange things about this track that can really catch you out if you're not careful.
Well, that's certainly great to know. Of course, we do see a lot of the older Formula 1 racing circuits that I think more characteristic towards being tracks that are meant for the driver. They're all flowing and not exactly as technical, which I find Silverstone to be one of those places. But I'd also have to say that Silverstone is one of those tracks that have changed quite a lot over the years, even though it has to maintain its original character, so to speak. Like, the whole structure of the track is still there. Unlike, say, places like Imola and Zolder, where the chicanes have completely upended the flow of the track, it is not exactly the case here at Silverstone. Singh Han across the start finish line, and he has set himself a 1:29.453, which puts him at provisional third.
Yeah, the lap times that we're seeing from these drivers right now are actually quite impressive. 129s is not bad considering the vehicles they have. 2.4 litre V8s in these cars. Definitely 2007 Formula 1 spec machinery here. Now, even though these guys are running traction control and a lot of the driver aids that they did have back in 2007, that does not mean these cars are actually easy to drive. Having had quite a bit of experience with this era of Formula 1 cars on the sim, these cars can be a little bit of a scalpel. If you get it a little bit too fast into the corner, or if you give it too much throttle coming out, you can still spin the car. And the VRC mod does a great job of actually replicating that feeling. But it's interesting to see how close everyone is as well. Haziq there, that's Amir Haziq, I believe, in first position, with Something Wrong in second, and Shraddhi Ha in third. The top four, in fact, are in the 129s, which is very, very quick around this track. And further back, we've got quite a few drivers in the 130s and the 131s for a Formula 1 race. This is actually quite close stuff.
Oh, it definitely is. So this is Amir Haziq. He's set a 1:29.329, as you just mentioned, but he is coming upon the final few corners, and we'll sit with him to see if he's able to best his previous lap time, because I think some of the drivers to kind of keep an eye on, of course, Amir Haziq, Sam, Singh Han, Sean Yip as well. These are all the front runners that have traditionally been around here. Haziq does not improve on his previous lap time, though he still holds on to provisional pole.
Yeah, interesting stuff there. You can see him actually just miss that apex. Wong Wei Seong coming down the track here again, and really quite quite a decent driver here. Coming up to this is, I believe, the fastest corner on the track here. You dive in absolutely flat out and you try and bleed off the power coming towards the apex and coming towards Club Corner, which is pretty much the tightest complex on the lap here. The final two corners of the modern track. It is super, super easy to throw the car in and find yourself having a little bit of understeer and miss one of the apexes. And when you do, especially when you're in a series of corners around this track, that can really hurt your lap time. One mistake is enough to basically prove to be the difference between first and fourth or fifth. It is that sort of almost like a tightrope trying to hot lap around this track. And it's personally, I find it quite enjoyable, but it's kind of like the same sort of enjoyment you have driving around somewhere like Sebring, where it's sort of masochistic more than anything else.
Yes, Sebring. It's also a flat place, but look, it has so much character at the time. We've unfortunately caught Sean Yu at the most inconvenient of times, but it still keeps the car on all fours nonetheless. That's great to see. A good save by Sean Yu. Let's have a look around. If this is Benjamin is in another McLaren. This is his current lap time is 1:33, and of course he's coming upon the final half of the racetrack. I'll tell you something, because a bit of going a bit loose along the exit, almost went into a pit entry there. And I think he might just have to bail from this lap.
Yeah, when it comes to that final sector there, you've really got to reset yourself, because the final corner is super, super critical in getting the first few sections correct when it comes to those hot laps. Now we're coming up on fourth place there. He hasn't changed his name yet.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out which driver this is.
He's going fairly quickly. We'll give him that. 129.596. We'll call him player for now.
Let's do that. Let's call him player.
Doing very well for himself. Amir Hazik, though, he's been quite impressive so far.
Yeah, well, we have sorry, Max, we have a new pole sitter. Sam has gone all the way up to provisional pole with 129.127, much faster, pretty much 2 times faster than Amir Hazik. And well, that was quite a quick turn of events, because I have been noticing that some of the drivers, as they do their qualifying laps, what I'll notice a pattern is that they will probably do 1 or 2 laps and then they'll probably bail from the car and reset the car. It makes sense with the modern Formula 1 cars where you want to reset the hybrid system, but I'm not exactly sure why they might decide to do that with these 2007 spec Formula 1 cars.
Well, perhaps it could be because the soft tires, at least with the VRC mod, if you're right at the ragged edge, you could have 1 or 2 laps of really good tire performance before they start to drop off ever so slightly. So when you're right on the limit, it could be the case that that would be what they're going for. Or the other thing that's more likely with these 2007 Formula 1 cars is that they're very sensitive to fuel loads. So perhaps they are trying to run the cars as light as possible. And by bailing, going into the pits and going out with another 5 litres or 6 litres worth of fuel, they can try and run the cars as light as possible. Something wrong there with a beautiful beautiful livery there. It sort of reminds me of the mid-90s Ligier livery. Certain French flair to that car that I kind of like. And a certain French flair with his driving style as well. I think the smoother you are through this corner... Wow, here we go again with the commentator's curse. But the smoother you are with these cars, the faster you tend to go around these high-speed tracks. And I think we're seeing that with Sam.
It's okay, Max. I think both Hian and I have cursed quite a lot of drivers during the first and second rounds, and we can keep that tradition going, although we should be cautious about that.
Well, with my experience with myself and yourself and commentators' curses, boys, we gotta hang on for the ride of your life there.
That's right. Singhan just bested his previous lap time, 129.388. So we've got 3 drivers under 129.4s. And that goes to the top 3 drivers, which is definitely great to see. We've got less than a minute of qualifying to go, so any moves that the drivers want to make to cement their qualifying position or even improve on their qualifying positions, they'll have to act fast and do it now.
Yeah, pretty much you have to be on an outlap towards the end of your outlap, in fact, right now, before qualifying is over. In AC, you have to cross the start-finish line before the time is up, before you can actually finish. You are allowed to finish your lap, but you can't start a new one if the time is up. So Wang Weixiong there going beautifully through that corner, just eating the curves a little bit there. Actually, a really nice run here from him. Let's see if he can actually improve on his lap time coming around towards the final few corners here. Club chicane and coming out towards the exit there. The car's so traction limited through here. Just wants to swap ends all the way going throughout the final corner there. Coming across the line. He's starting a lap, in fact, just in time, I might add, for a decent attempt at a lap time. But I think, judging by how he entered this lap, he should be in for a good lap time there. Something Wong still on pole position there, 128.858. That is a fantastic lap time there. First driver into the 128s. Amir Hazing 129.211 and Chua Sing Ha in third position, 129.388. The lap times are dropping very, very fast indeed.
Well, so if this is anything to go by, these qualifying results, it should mean that we will have an exciting and intense race that will unfold within the next couple of moments. I think it is a good indication that things will get very spicy later on. So some of the other drivers who are still on the track, Mr. Fridge Magnet, Bradley Tam in 9th. He is with Brad TM Racing because he is teammates with the other Bradley Martins, who's qualified 10th. So let's see with Bradley Tam as he comes around the final few corners. And it's time to beat. Will be a one. He goes. What?
Well,
what?
I'm guessing he's also magnetized towards the Encore barriers on the outside there.
Well, Bradley Martins moves up a position, 139.31. So he moves up 2 thousandths of a second faster than his Bradley teammate.
So there we have it. Something Wong is on pole position there with Amir Hazik in second and Chua Sing Sing Ha in third position, and player in fourth place, the mysterious player that I'm sure he's there somewhere. We'll try and figure out who that driver is. Sean Yip in fifth and Sim Kai Wei in sixth position. These are some seriously quick drivers, and it's going to be interesting to see how the opening lap ends up. The opening series of corners on this track never fails to provide, let's call it excitement, for want of a better word.
Oh, you know what, Max? I'm certainly looking forward to that, and we'll see how it'll all turn out when the green flag drops. So the one thing I'm trying to keep reminding myself is that Formula 1 cars do not do rolling starts, they do standing starts. Even though they do a safe pace lap around the track, it is standing starts, so I have to keep remembering that, because I'm too used to racing GT cars and we all do rolling starts from there.
Yeah, between the GT cars and NASCAR, it's actually surprising when you see a single-seater race and they're all just taking off from a standstill. You guys got clutches?
I wonder.
So yeah, I've seen some really quick drivers out there. We've seen Noah Sidek further back behind the field there, Benjamin there in 11th. The two Bradleys there in 11th and 10th. We were joking actually earlier on. For those of you who don't know, back in the 70s, before the famous Marlboro sponsorship, McLaren was sponsored by Yardley. So I think we've gone from Yardley McLaren to Bradley McLaren for this race.
So drivers have proceeded to the grid, and within the next 40 seconds, we will see the green flag drop. So of course we have a... I'm sorry, Max.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say we have a 15-strong starting grid. Just going to wait for the tower to appear later on, but yeah, we do have a 15-strong starting grid, and that's definitely enough for some intense racing action that will take place.
Absolutely, the nerves are building right now, and the sixth lights come on one more than the official Formula 1 grid, because AC is just that much extra. The 6 red lights go on, and away we go. 39 minutes on the clock as they head on down the track there. We see Amir Hazik has a fantastic start there, but he's been beaten to the first corner there. Big sideways moment for a couple of the drivers there. 2 wide, 3 wide coming toward the opening sections of the lap there. Something One is in the lead. Amir Hazik is in second place. Chua Ting Ah is in third position. Players get a lot of position there. Something Wong has gone off the track there. Let's give the position to Amir Hazik, and he's dropped down to third position, in fact, with Chua coming over in second place. That has been a disastrous opening segment for Sam there, really brilliant bit of driving from Amir Hazik to keep the nose of that fake Ferrari clean, but brilliant start to the race there. You can see he's got a fantastic lead right now, 1 second ahead after the opening section. That man is flying right now.
Oh, it absolutely is. So, of course, most of the drivers up front have made a position gain due to that unfortunate incident. And Amir Hazik is now a race leader with Singhan in second and Sim Kai Wen in third position. So, drivers are going to make their way around the final parts of the track for the first time in the race. And I'm just astounded by how many long stretches of straights there are here at Silverstone. And can you imagine if DRS were available in 2007, the racing would have been very much more different.
Oh yeah, I mean, you see it nowadays. A lot of overtaking happens around Silverstone. They've rejigged the track, of course. They made a lot of big changes. They moved the pits from Woodcote to Abbey, which is where the pits are nowadays. And they rejigged the track quite a bit in preparation for DRS style racing. And I think it's worked out quite well here. But don't get us wrong, these 2007 Formula 1 cars have a fairly big wake behind them. They punch a fairly big hole in through the air. So slipstreaming is possible. Of course, if you're slipstreaming in these cars, you do tend to run the danger of overheating your brakes and losing a bit of front-end downforce in particular. So it's a little bit difficult trying to follow them through the corners, but on the straights, the slipstream effect is quite big with these cars. And it could be interesting to see how that plays into the racing tonight. You see, Bradley Tam had a fantastic start to get himself up into fourth position. Could have sworn he was down in the lower reaches of the top 10 there, but I think his clutch work really worked out well for him, and he's managed to get the car hooked up through the opening sectors. This is one of the most important things about the opening segments of a single-seater race. Doesn't matter if it's if it's a Formula 3 or Formula 1, you really do have to make sure the car's hooked up, the tyres are up to temperature as soon as possible.
So Max, Bradley Tam, Lewis Hamilton or Fernando Alonso?
I don't know, is he really bad with emails?
I think that's Alonso. I think I think that
has to be Alonso. I was going to ask, is he very good with emails?
I'll have to find that out. I'll have to find it out myself.
That's a reference to the Spygate scandal where Baron got caught out.
So Benjamin and Bradley Martins have set their fastest lap time. Actually, everyone has set their fastest lap time. Oh, over the curve, over the sausage curves goes Bradley. So I think that's a hidden mechanism within a sausage, but yeah, he's in fourth, and Benjamin, who's made his way up to fifth in a stealth McLaren. Can you call it a different kind of McLaren? In between
Papaya McLaren.
That's right. So he's behind one Bradley and ahead of the other Bradley.
So we've got three McLarens there in fourth, fifth, and sixth positions there. A bit of a gap between those drivers there, but so far, first of all, I'm amazed how fast Amir Hazik's gone ahead of Chua there. Both drivers very, very quick, very, very close lap times in practice and qualifying, but 3.4 seconds in 2 laps is a massive lead. But that sort of begs the question with when it comes to Amir Hazik. What is his tyres going to be like at the end of the stint? What is his tyres going to be like at the end of the race? Because he's taking a lot of life out of those tyres.
Yes, I think it will help to notice and observe how the driving styles of the drivers are like. Because Bradley Martins does seem to be pushing the car a little aggressively. Well, I mean, any manner that works for you, but it would seem that it is going to. This style isn't exactly the most sustainable over the long run, but it can help you eke out that bit of more pace which you might want at any point in the race. So Bradley Martins in 6th, he sits behind Benjamin and ahead of Sam in 7th. I think we've had a big jumble of positions over the course of the race.
Yeah, it's interesting actually watching. Oh dear.
Sorry. Right, I think Icon might have pitted earlier on, and we did see some of the cars swapping positions. So yeah, this is Noah Sidek sitting behind Sean Yip. So I'm just jumping around to observe if there are any other competitions. But this right here seems to be the second closest battle we have after one between Bradley Martins and Benjamin.
Yeah, it was interesting. If you compare Bradley Martins and Noah Sidek's driving style, Bradley Martins actually tends to drive the car very much like Fernando Alonso did in period. Lots of steering input and basically hoping that to stick the rear end of the car here. Oh no, Noah Sidek spins the car out there. He had a big lockup coming towards the final sector of Luffield there and coming up towards Woodcote, which is this corner right here. That was a very, very big mistake there from Noah Sidek. He's going to lose quite a lot of time there. He must have dropped at least 4 or 5 seconds to the car ahead when it all shakes out. But I was going to say that he had... It's a very interesting driving style comparison between Noah Sidek and Bradley Martins there. With Martins, he's driving it with a lot of steering input, kind of like Fernando Alonso did in period, especially in the Renault days. If you see him coming towards this first sector here, he's going to throw the car into the corner fairly aggressively, especially through this one right here. Hard on the brakes there. He turns the car in. He gives it a little more steering than is strictly necessary in a traditional driving style, but that works the front tires and it plants the rear tires with these cars. And that requires quite a bit of setup knowledge to pull off, but he's definitely doing a great job here trying to catch up with Benjamin up ahead there. And you can see the different racing lines there. Benjamin going very wide there. That's a very different racing line indeed. And Bradley Martin's beautiful maneuver there to just keep the speed up and keep his head cool to get himself up into 5th position. Another position gained for the Bradleys.
So, just a fun fact, if memory serves me right, I think Bradley Martins is part of the Formula SAE team in Singapore, which could explain his expertise in handling setups, which is definitely great to see.
Yeah, it's brilliant stuff to see. If you compared it with Noah Sidek, Noah's driving style tends to lock up the inside front. Well, I wouldn't say lock up, but he under-rotates the inside front wheel coming into the corners. And that was actually something that Lewis Hamilton did quite a lot in his first 2 seasons in Formula One while he's getting used to driving the Formula One cars there. And it's very, very, very easy to do that, especially if you have a very stiff setup on the front end of the car. And it's sort of a bit of a dead giveaway. But it does mean that he is actually working the front end a little bit more than the rear. And consequently, we see him... The car genuinely looks actually quite different in terms of driving style between Noah and Bradley there. And you can see if coming up towards the final sector here, he feeds the car into the corner there, very direct steering input, but he doesn't give it any more steering than it absolutely needs to. And he's expecting the rear of the car to rotate coming throughout here. You'll never see that steering wheel go past 90 degrees and just perfectly balancing on the throttle and coming out of the corners there. That is Noah Sidek's driving style. And it's interesting to see. I think we lose that a little bit with the tyre conservation we have in Formula One nowadays. Back then, they really had to push the cars to get the most out of the performance. It's a lot more flat-out driving than there is now. And that's when you see the differences between the driving styles. When they're at the limit, that's when you find out what the drivers are like.
Most certainly, Max. I'm a noob myself with actually knowing how to drive a car. Oh, whoa! Singhan, we're going a little bit late on the brakes as he comes upon some lap traffic, but still clears lap traffic nonetheless, coming upon the final chicane. And of course, Singhan is in second. He is set behind Amir Hazik. So, a couple of races earlier at Fuji Speedway, Hian and I did kind of observe the differences in driving styles. And Singhan's style is, I would say, if you were to compare between Bradley Martins and Noah Sidek, I think Singhan and Noah's driving styles would be in some way similar. They're kind of relying on the gradual inputs and stuff like that to get the car to get their cars around the corners. Whereas if we do have a look at Amir Hazik, we'll probably just sit here with him for a little moment. You can see a little bit of aggression in the way Amir handles his cars into the corners at least.
Yeah, you can see he's generating a lot of understeer almost on the front end of the car. He's not rotating the car in the traditional sense that we'd expect from GT races. But this is something I've noticed from Amir Hazik in touring cars as well in the various series that I've been tracking his career through. He does have this tendency to lean on the front end of the car quite a bit more than the rear. And with these cars, this actually works out quite well. They're fairly rearward biased in terms of weight balance, and it is always very tricky to get the traction out of the car. So if anything you can do to improve the traction situation of this car, you want to try and do that. and Amir Hazik's doing that naturally with his driving style. Very, very aggressive on turning, but he tries to bleed off on that aggression, corrects the understeer, and comes out of the corner theoretically with perfect traction coming out of it. I think he's definitely flying right now. He's setting a whole series of fastest laps right now. He's building that gap to 11 seconds. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts having issues with his tires later on, but this is a gamble worth taking because for me anyways, you want to be out in front and defending the lead rather than trying to chase someone that's that much faster than you. But then again, for some drivers, it could be preferable to actually have the car, see the car up ahead and use that as motivation to try and catch up. So it's going to be interesting. I'm definitely sure that the top three, in fact, right now, are running different sort of strategies, even though we don't really have very complicated pit strategies in this race, but the driving strategies, when you push and when you back off, and when you conserve your tires and when you really try and use the most out of your tires, that sort of strategy, you can see that there's a big difference between Amir Hazik and Chua right now.
So Singhan has something else to worry about, that is his rear view mirror, because that rear view mirror is being fueled by Sim Kai-wen, who is in third. So I also noticed that here at Silverstone, because it's not exactly a technical track, it's a place where you can afford to have multiple kinds of driving styles. You can choose to be aggressive, you can also choose to be a little more gradual and easy on the car, because both will work fine, because the track here is relatively very much flowing indeed. So Sim Kai-wen 0.6 of a second behind Singhan, and of course we are about 12 minutes into the race. That's about a quarter of the race in. So the total race length is 40 minutes, and that means that drivers do have to conserve their tires a fair bit. Most of the drivers are on soft tires, apart from Benjamin, who's on hard tires, and Isaac, who's on medium tires.
Oh, those medium tires don't look like they're working all that well for Isaac there.
Sorry, Isaac.
Goes for a bit of a rallycross racing line through there. He hasn't lost too much time through there, but he's going to drop perhaps one position there to the car behind him, which is going to complicate his life a little bit more coming through there. But it just goes to show the mistakes you can make around here. If you miss an apex, you really do have to check up and slow the car down quite a bit. In order to try and make the next apex. Otherwise, if you try and keep pushing, you tend to fall off the track like that. But more to your point, that is the interesting thing about this racetrack. Not only do different driving styles work, but different driving lines work. You'll see Isaac isn't going all the way out to the curb there, whereas the car ahead of him is using all of the track and then some. Coming towards this opening sector there, he's chasing up the car ahead, and he's using a lot of steering input. This is very much Fernando Alonso territory there. In fact, a little bit too much in that case, getting the racing line just a little bit wrong through there before coming out towards this straight here, coming down towards the Luffield section. But you can tell, coming into the brakes, turning it in, if you make a mistake like that, you're going to come off the track, and that's going to cost you a lot of time. And I think Isaac's struggling a little bit right now. Perhaps he hasn't got the temperature in his tires.
Well, that was an unfortunate moment for Isaac. Well, we're now with Aryan Vicker, who is in 11th. He's just ceded 10th place to Noah Sidek, and I think Noah has got a little bit wide. Oh, almost losing the rear end there along the exit of this right-hander. And over...
Tricky stuff through the section here.
Tricky section indeed. Noah, not exactly sure if Noah is having a good time with his car either.
Yeah, I think we could have seen quite a few drivers start to overheat the tires, judging by how they're driving, how aggressive they're going. Ooh, look at that beautiful little slide job out the inside there for Aryan Vicker, coming up towards the inside of Noah Sidek, closing off the gap, closing off any chances for the counter-attack, and he manages to get himself through there and managing to give himself a fairly big gap to Noah Sidek further behind there, although he is going to the pits there, so perhaps there was a little bit of capitulation, shall we say, on Noah's part, making sure that he has a clear run into the pits there. Aryan Vicker actually going quite well right now, I think, judging by the lap times there. The moment I say something. I was saying before that point, he looked very impressive in terms of how he was actually handling the car there. The other thing with this track is maximizing braking is very, very difficult. You'd think braking from high speed to low speed is the hardest part with these cars, but it's actually braking for those medium to high speed corners where you're not sure if you need 20% or 30% braking. That's where the trouble is. As we can see there, Bradley Tam is now all over the back of Sim Kai-wen. This is going to be a epic battle. They're gonna have to try and get through the village section here, around Brooklands and down the Brooklyn Straight, coming out towards the exit here. Who can get the best drive coming out of this corner here? Absolutely flat out through the left-hand side, left-hand corner, and down underneath the bridge into Luffield. And it looks like Sim Kai-wen might keep that position for just a little while longer. But Bradley Tam, very close behind.
Yeah, I think Bradley tried a boxing sparring style of a move there. He tried to feint. He tried to go inside along the first corner there, but didn't actually make the overtaking move work. So Kai-wen continues to hold on to third place. 7/10 separate both drivers in third and fourth position. Well, I'll tell you something. Looking at the drivers racing here at Silverstone, it does in some ways feel like they're rinsing and repeating. Because although, of course, the corners are quite distinct and unique, it does feel like within one lap itself, you are kind of repeating yourself numerous times through the first, second, and third sectors. And I think that's one of the challenges for the drivers here, especially if you're racing here for long periods of time. You have to still stay focused regardless.
Yeah, the most dangerous thing about Silverstone is you can get into a little bit of a phenomenon of like the Silverstone rhythm, where you get into this situation where you keep doing the same things over and over again. You almost forget you're on a racetrack, and it's very, very critical to actually keep aware and keep track of your mistakes and how you improve them and what the car ahead's doing, especially with these cars, very aero-sensitive cars as well. When you're following someone, you've got to check up a bit. You can't brake as late, so you have to brake a bit earlier with a little bit less pressure and get on the throttle earlier when you're following someone. And it's very, very subtle things that you have to be aware of. It's very easy to just keep driving around this racetrack, just end up doing 135s the entire way throughout the entire race. But you need to sort of break that chain. You need to break that sort of funk and just focus on chasing the car ahead. Sam doing a brilliant job of that right now, trying to catch up with Weisio here, dancing around there. A lot of understeer from a lot of the drivers here. You can tell that front-end group is definitely a bit of a story for this race. With 22 minutes to go there, a lot of drivers are starting to add more and more steering lock as they go through the corners, especially when they're chasing someone. So Sam there, we remembered he was right up at the sharp end of the grid there, but he dropped a few places with that run through the grass in the opening lap. But slowly but surely trying to catch the cars ahead. Sean Yip right now, we're riding on board as he heads down the Brooklyn Straight.
So it does seem that most of the drivers have perhaps made some pit maneuvers. I'm not sure exactly why Bradley Martins is still stuck in the pits. Did something happen? Probably something might have happened.
Please don't tell me he's going for a full tank of fuel.
No.
That's happened to me a couple of times before on AC, and it's really, really embarrassing.
Well, let's go back to live pictures. It is quite a scene here. The second, third, and fourth. So this being bounded by Sing Han. And Sing Han is coming under some pressure by Bradley Tam, who is also coming within the crosshair of Kai-wen, who sits in fourth, who we are riding with at this point. So three separate teams in second, third, and fourth. Of course, Sing Han from Alpha Sim, Bradley Tam from Brad TM Racing, and Kai-wen in from Blue Steel Racing. So all of these drivers giving one another a run for their money. But let's have a better perspective of how things are going between second and third. Oh, what?
That might be a slight glitch there from Bradley Tam. He's gone off into the distance there. It looks like he's disconnected. Oh, that's going to be terrible for Bradley.
No.
That would be very, very unfortunate if that is the case, because he looked like he was closing quite rapidly on that battle up ahead of him there. But unfortunately, it looks like he's dropped off at least our screens for the moment.
No, he has such a good run. Bradley has such a good run, but that had to happen. Well, nonetheless, race leader Amir Hazik still in first. He's 22 seconds ahead of Sing Han. And, well, I think Amir's strategy of pushing hard for the first couple of laps is paying off. And whether or not this is a strategy to then build himself a sizable buffer for when if and when he pits, that I think he might be thinking of that. But otherwise, he is thinking of, otherwise he is in quite a good position himself. So yes, indeed, I think Bradley did disconnect. I'm seeing his name on Steam there. It's probably reconnecting to AC. So I think we caught him at the wrong moment, but race still goes on nonetheless.
Yeah, it did look like Jaime Alguersuari's accident in China when he lost both front wheels and went straight on. Which is an unfortunate thing to happen there. Sim Kai Wen in third position there, trying to catch up to the car ahead of him. He was part of that battle with Bradley, and again, very unfortunate stuff indeed, but it does mean he's got a clear road to the car ahead. 0.7 of a second, closing rapidly with Singha there. Hard through the throttle through the first two sections here, then you've got to check the car up just a little bit for these next two corners, and then hard on the throttle through the Chapel corner, which is the final corner in that sequence, coming down towards the long straight here. Very, very tricky here, the braking. You don't have to brake too long, but just a fraction of a second too long on the brakes and you lose a lot of time. So very, very difficult stuff indeed. And you can see there, he is trying to fill up Chua's mirrors, ducking to the left, ducking to the right. He's setting something up here. I think Sim Kai Wen must be on fresher tires, because we've seen Chua throughout the season being very, very quick there. And to be fair, Sim Kai Wen also a very quick driver on his day, but I think there's a little bit of tire degradation coming in towards him, because look at how close Sim Kai Wen is getting to the back of Chua Sing Han's car.
Yeah, definitely very close indeed. He's trying to find the most optimal camera angle to observe all of that good action. Gosh, I have to be more proficient with the use of the AC remote. Kai Wen in third continues to put some good pressure on Sing Han.
It is a bit tricky, isn't it? A little bit. How do I put it? It's a little bit more awkward to use than our favorite little iRacing setup.
SDK Gaming, the best.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
SDK, please do AC stuff. But yeah, you can see Sim Kai Wen is carrying a lot more speed into the corners, and he's managing to keep the car hooked up in the entry phase. Chua's managing to get the exit out of the corners. He's able to keep his position based on that, but the entry is coming in. And Amir Hazik has gone into the pits there, so he's betting that 24 seconds is enough time to get into the pits. And look at that, Sim Kai Wen is also coming into the pits there. This has really changed the complexion of the race quite a bit. It's a long pit lane here, but I think 22 seconds. He will come out behind Chua. But Chua is going to really have to contend with an Amir Hazik that has fresh tires and a decent load of fuel there. And again, Amir Hazik just comes out just behind him. It's going to be qualifying laps now for Amir Hazik. There's going to be fireworks from this driver right now. If he wants to win this race, he's going to push as fast as possible.
So rinse and repeat, does Amir Hazik? He will have to do that in order to have a shot at regaining his race lead. So certainly exactly what he did in the first half of the race, it paid off, because he's only got 4.5 seconds of the gap, which he has to contend with. I'm not sure if Sing Han has has gone into the pits. If it happens that he doesn't intend on pitting, then it is 4 seconds that Sing Han has to be able to play with to hopefully try to maintain his stead ahead of Amir Hazik. So we are having 15 minutes of racing left to go, and that should be sufficient time to see if the driver strategies do play out. But it is worth noting that the advantage that Sing Han has ahead of Amir Hazik is reducing ever so slightly as the time passes.
Yeah, that's going to be the thing here. I believe Chua cannot actually head into the pits right now. If he wants any chance of winning this race, he's going to have to stay out. Amir Hazik has managed to actually force Chua's hand in terms of pit strategy here. He's come in at just the right time, so that now Chua is out there on old tires compared to Amir Hazik, who I presume has fresh set of tires, a decent load of fuel there, and everything he needs to finish these, have a strong last 15 minutes of this race right now. It looks like Chua Sing Ha has gone into the pits on our timing screen. I'm not sure if that's actually the case there, but he has in fact gone into the pits there. He isn't able to carry out that strategy. I'm not too sure what happened there. Did he go in for a penalty, or did he go in for a pit stop?
Well, I don't think he stopped, so it could have been something. So
yeah, that's very, very strange. But that's just given the lead to Amir Hazik. That's
yeah, this is totally going to play in the favor of Amir Hazik. if this were to be the case. Well, Wei Xiong in 4th, he's just set a lap time of 1:53. Well, of course, in race trip, you know, at this point in the race with the tires falling off, your lap times will definitely be reducing. And as Wei Xiong continues, he's just come across the first sector and he's on to this backstretch. I have the track map here of Silverstone open on my by the side. So
was that Sim Kai-wen that went off the track there? It looks like Wei Xiong went past someone who's in the... Yes, he's gone off. Sim Kai-wen has spun off on the way onto the Brooklyn Straight here. And that's really damaged his chances of getting the podium position there. He's lost it coming on the exit there, which seems like a very simple thing in these cars, but coming on the exit out of there, especially if you clip the curb on the exit, traction control or no traction control, GT3 or Formula 1 car, it's very easy to lose the car coming through there if you go a little bit too wide. And as you were saying, with the tires fading away a little bit, that could be a serious issue for some of these drivers there. But that's Wei Xiong gaining another position and putting himself into the podium places. So it's all changed right now at front end there. Wei Xiong in 3rd position, just behind Chua and Amir Hazik.
Something Wong continues in 6th position. So Sean Yip and Something... whoa, they're both close together and Something Wong goes spinning around. Unfortunately locked up the brakes there as he probably attempted to avoid hitting into the rear end of Sean Yip. Continues to hold on to 6th position. I think some lap traffic has just made their way around Sam there.
Yeah, a combination of a driver having to check up ahead, Sam having a big snap oversteer moment, and having to get on the brakes at the same time caused him to dabble in a little bit of Formula D drifting there before carrying on. He did a good job, I must say. A lot of...
No, that's Isaac who's gone over the curbs.
Spin. Wow, unbelievable stuff there, and Sam having to avoid yet another accident. Again, Sam wouldn't be too happy with that, having to avoid 2 accidents in 1 lap. That's put him well back behind the 6th place driver right now, and he can't have been too happy with those 2 incidents. He could have recovered it after the first one, but Isaac having the big spin coming towards the exit. And the most frustrating part about all of that is that there's nothing anybody could do in that situation to make it better. You could argue that he could have gone on the inside instead of the outside, but you have to pick a direction, and unfortunately he picked the long way around.
We certainly did there, and I'm just glad that all the drivers have made it through that incident unscathed, which is definitely fortunate. So Isaac coming under a bit of pressure from someone who's behind. I think it's a traffic that's it's a lap ahead, I suppose.
Yeah, that might be lapping traffic behind him. Going around the outside there. Around the outside, that's an interesting place to try and go side by side. Coming around the corners there. Ooh. Some bravery from the driver behind there, but he's still trying to go around the outside there. They're battling right now, coming down towards the final corner there again. Benjamin that is coming down and managing to make that move stick. It was a little bit of a scary place to try and overtake lap traffic. I'm not too sure what Isaac could have done to try and help that situation along. But
a bit of lockup by Isaac.
Lock up there. I think his tires are gone. It looks like.
Yeah, that's right. I think with 10 minutes to go into the race, the drivers are going to start to face a bit of problems with their tires. So I think this is where, there's nothing wrong with going with an aggressive strategy, but you have to make it work in your favor, which Amir Hazik did exactly that. So if you're not able to make that work in your favor, then you might want to consider taking care of your tires a little more. But of course, we do have Bradley Tam, who's rejoined us after that spectacular, unfortunate disconnect. Well, it does mean that Brad's team does unfortunately have not exactly having the best showings here in this race, but they're still racing nonetheless, which is great. So Bradley currently sits in 12 behind Noah Sadek.
Yeah, it's incredible actually. I've never seen two front wheels disconnect from the car like that in AC. That's a first for me. I must admit. Usually the car takes off and flies over the grandstands, which has resulted in some pretty hilarious screenshots in the Adrenaline Impact Discord server in the past. But yeah, that's a first for me. That's the Jaime Alguersuari disconnect technique. but he is catching some drivers up ahead fairly quickly. That's driver in 5th place. That's Schwan. That's Sean Yip there, who's got a very, very quick Bradley. If I was Sean right now, I would just let him pass and try and follow him. He says, speaking too soon. And try and follow him down this next straight here. And that's perhaps what he's going to do.
Goes a bit loose.
Bradley's
mounts the curb.
Yeah, again, you see the drivers check up a little bit. He perhaps takes a little bit too much speed coming into that corner. He would have made it if there was no car up ahead, but you have to drive with a little bit of situational awareness. You have to drive anticipating what the car in front's going to do and perhaps going around the outside or the inside in order to avoid it. And you've seen a lot of drivers spin the car on the apex when they come across a slower car today.
Yep, certainly. Of course, the good thing with Silverstone is that you do have some room for error, unlike the track that we'll go to next week at Montreal, where you have no room for error. So I think drivers will have a bit of they can take a bit of liberties here at Silverstone and still get away with it. That's absolutely fine. So let's have a look at some of the...
We should have a pot for all the SRA members to see who hits the Wall of Champions first at Gilles Villeneuve.
Yeah, well, the curbs at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve are monstrous. They put the sausage curbs here at Silverstone to... they seem tame in comparison. Well, even racing V8 supercars and those big touring cars at Montreal, you do sometimes have problems with the big curbs, sometimes damaging your bumper and suspension. So with these Formula 1 cars, you have to be absolutely careful.
Well, all I can say is, judging by the last couple of Xfinity races I've seen there, NASCAR Xfinity races, even a NASCAR Xfinity car has problems with the curbs, you know your curbs are big.
I think they're there for you to not use them, I think. No.
Yeah, they're a penalty, not an aid.
Yes.
Well, you can see there that's Sam right now, who's managed to catch up to the back of Sean right now, coming towards the Luffield section here. Again, a lot of people having a lot of issues going through here. Sam going for the wide line, perhaps trying to catch a little bit of air, trying to catch a little bit of respite from the dirty air. You see some drivers actually take the really wide line through there just to try and catch some air on the front wing. He's going to try and dive it on the inside, rather fastest corner in Grand Prix racing. They touch. They're coming out of the corner there. Sam Wong's managed to get through there. They're still side by side coming towards Maggots. And he manages to cut across there just before Beckett's and Chapel. Sean Yip having to drive the car all over the track in order to control the car after Sam's overtaking maneuver. That is an incredibly brave maneuver from Sam. Unbelievable bit of driving for both drivers there. A contentious fight for position there, but Sam managing to get up ahead into 5th place. Brilliant bit of driving, brilliant bit of showmanship from both these drivers.
A brilliant bit of showmanship, ladies and gentlemen. You just heard Max Palmer off Adrenaline Impact at his best.
I see exciting things, ice cream.
Yeah.
But it's been a brilliant bit of racing. You've got to get me to
your studio, man. I want to do that with you.
Oh yeah, we're planning on kidnapping Wei Hun and using him in the studio. Unfortunately, there's Neslo in Singapore now, so I need to find something else to lure you over across the causeway and into Malaysia. But I have to say, this Formula 1 series so far has been looking great. We've got 15 fairly quick drivers there. Big lock up there from Sean Yip. He's definitely struggling with the tyres there. I think there was a car that came off the road further ahead there. That's one of the back markers there. Isaac really struggling with the car right now. Let's see if Sean can clear Isaac right now. Diving on the inside, on the outside. Going again throughout this corner. This is going to be a bit scary, but he manages to make that work. Oh boy. There's been just moments of brilliance from these drivers that are just so fun to watch, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the great thing is that, even racing here at Assetto Corsa, the community platform, community series, you still have great racing nonetheless, and I think that's just great to see here at Sim Racers Asia. Sean Yip continues in 6th position ahead of the driver of the mystery player in 7th. I think I have to perhaps ask around who that driver is, because he had a good showing earlier on in the race, but dropped to 7th. Am I seeing fire from the brake discs?
Yeah, well, occasionally with the VRC cars, you'll see exhaust flames on the overrun.
Well, that's interesting to see.
I guess no matter how small you make the V8, flames are still going to flame.
So we've got less than 5 minutes of racing to go. The drivers have done 35 minutes of racing here at Silverstone Circuit. And that means that any strategies that drivers are playing out, this is where the strategies are playing off. It has paid off for Amir Hazik as he is 25 seconds ahead of the rest of the field.
If he grows that gap to 27 seconds, there is a possibility he can come in for 4 tires and fuel and come back out in time to still be in the lead of the race. That is an incredible gap that he's managed to build between Amir Hazik and the second place man there. Brilliant bit of driving from him so far. He's obviously taken a very aggressive start to the race, but he's also managed to manage the tires and build up just enough gap to make that one-stop strategy work. And again, he's got a fresh set of tires. He's got plenty of pace in the tank right now. 26 seconds between himself and Chua in second place. And I must admit, this really does look like the old days for Ferrari with Schumacher and Kimi Räikkönen cruising off into victory.
So I think we can continue to observe some of the drivers because some of the drivers have, I would say, effectively gone into cruising mode because towards the end of the race, some of the drivers already have a good buffer ahead of some cars behind them, which is the case for quite a lot of drivers within the top 5. As we see, Javier Alvarez is playing EA Sports FIFA 23 Max. I think I want to join him later on.
Yeah. I wonder what he might be doing this evening. Yeah. Been a while actually. I might pick him up on his offer. He's doing the FUT Football Ultimate Team series on Adrenaline Impact. Wink, wink, plug, plug.
Ah, nice. That's great.
And yeah, it's going to be quite interesting to see. Actually, on Vertex Esports, which is our new esports channel. Hopefully, we'll be able to do a little bit more together with the Sim Racers Asia community throughout the course of the year. We're scheming behind the scenes here, and we can't wait to bring you in along the scheming, but we'll have to scheme a little bit more.
Absolutely. Amir Hazik continues with the race lead, and I'm struggling to. I'm just going to look around for some more battles that are taking place. The closest one that we have here, 5th, 6th, and 7th, because there's Sean Yip and Mystery Driver and Sam. So the final of the battles that would probably be apparent here. Let's ride with Sam here as he goes along the inside. I think this is a hanger straight if I'm not wrong. Takes the inside. I don't know if you click the wheel. Whoa, bang!
Oh!
And Sean Yip goes round, and something also goes round, and the drivers are out of their original positions. That's very unfortunate to see. I think we've caught them at the wrong moment.
Wow, that was incredible stuff there. We managed to catch them just as the action was about to go down. There, we can see there that Sean Yip had to check up for whatever reason. Perhaps he had a bit of understeer, a bit of oversteer. That he had to let off the throttle on the exit of the corner there, and that caused the concertina effect that drove Sam into the back of him. And the player there, John Doe, as we'll call him, I guess, coming into the pits there to get some repairs, or drive-through penalty. I'm not too sure. Again, perhaps he went in for a drive-through penalty. We do have penalties turned on using the pit lane penalty app, right?
Yep. I think Noah has implemented the pit lane penalty app for this series, yes. I'm sorry, I'm noob with Assetto Corsa, so I have to seek counsel from the experts.
And to be honest with you, Noah Siddiq is the guy to ask when it comes to this sort of stuff. Brilliant bit of battling right now. Sam and Sean going absolutely hammer and tongs. They're coming out towards the line there. They're going to cross the line, and there'll be 40 seconds left in the race. Can he make it coming down towards turn 1 here? He has to back off. It's a very high-speed corner. Very, very dangerous indeed. Sorry, that's not turn 1. That's Stowe coming up towards Mackett's, Beckett's, and Chapel. Let's see how fast Sam can close up. Wow, that is unbelievable. The speed that Sam can actually carry into that corner there, but he's managed to overstep his mark there big time, and he's made a big spin there. That change of pace between Sam going in very, very quickly and Sean coming in very, very slowly has sort of upset the rhythm a little bit there. And it means that Sam has yet more flat spots on his tires to deal with. Sean Yip still up in 6th position. There is 0 seconds left on the clock there. Let's see if he comes across the line, and that is, in fact, Amir Hazik coming across the line there in 1st position, 27 seconds ahead of Chua. A brilliant, brilliant display from the driver there in the Ferrari. Beautiful stuff.
Fantastic driving by Ami Hazuki's strategy absolutely paid off big time, and it served him absolutely well, so he takes a race win here. Round 4 of Sim Racers Asia Assetto Corsa Community Series Season 12 here at Silverstone Grand Prix Circuit. Sing Han will come home in second as... he's already completed his race, I think. So Sing Han comes home in second, Sim Kai-wen in third. And he is in fact around the final chicane, so let's follow him through as he comes towards the final corner and onto the start-finish line. Sim Kai-wen in third, and Wei Xiong will likely come home in fourth. Got the rest of the drivers, yes mate.
I must say, Sim Kai-wen definitely wins the award for nicest livery. A throwback to the old Cannon Williams cars of the early 90s there. So definitely, I know it's not an official award, but best livery so far, I think. Benjamin there coming home in 5th position there. Sean Yip in 6th, with Sam Ting-Won in 7th. Our mystery John Doe driver player, who's in the witness protection program, in 8th place, and Aryan Dike in 9th, with Nur Siddiq in 10th.
Alright, so brilliant drive by all of the drivers involved. We've definitely had a great time observing the competition unfold here. So as the rest of the drivers make their way around, this is Aikhan and both of them together, Aikhan and Bradley Tam. Ooh, this looks good, pacing together. Does Ami Hazik? Oh yeah, let's see if Ami Hazik is going to do any celebratory donut. Someone's having a big off behind.
But it's nice to see the drivers pull up alongside each other in motor racing circles. That's a nice little nod, a little bit of respect shown to the drivers on the cool-down lap when you pull alongside, and give them a little wave as you come across during the cool-down lap there. But Amir Hazik definitely deserved every single bit of praise for that drive. It is truly out of the Schumacher book. The way he drove that race perfectly from start to finish, even on the cool-down lapping, as professional as can be. Very, very smooth and very, very nice bit of driving.
Oh, it absolutely was. So, well, that has been round 4 here at Silverstone Circuit. We'll just wait long here to see if there are any drivers who will come in for a post-race interview. Let's talk about the race for a little bit. I think coming to Silverstone last week, these drivers were racing at... Hold on, let me have a look. Last week, the drivers were racing at Spa. Unfortunately, there was no coverage, so we kind of missed out on the action. But I think moving from Spa to Silverstone, drivers had quite a fair bit of getting used to, because over at Spa, the track is quite hard on tires, but here at Silverstone, it is a little bit easier on tires. It's just a little more flowing than Spa is. And I think it's also kind of served all drivers well as they managed to adapt across the mid-season.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see how the drivers have changed and adapted themselves to the different tracks there. As you said, Spa, a very, very different track from Silverstone. A lot of elevation change, a lot of downhill corner entries, and corners that are perhaps even a little bit faster in terms of apex speed than some of the places you see here at the Silverstone circuit. A little bit narrow in some places, a little bit tricky in others. It's interesting to see how the drivers have chosen to actually take this challenge on. But one thing's for sure, Silverstone never disappoints when it comes to drama and action. And I think we've seen that today, just like you see in a real-life Formula One race. All of the action, all of the drama, all the carnage, and a lot of people spinning out on the apex of corners there. So, yeah, it's one of those tracks where you can never actually put down what makes it so special. On the face of it, when you're driving around on your own, it isn't really that special of a racetrack. It's fairly basic, in fact. But when you have a bunch of drivers racing around there, oh boy, special things happen.
Yep. Well, we do have Bradley Martins and Bradley Tam, so let's bring them up. Hi guys, Bradley and Bradley.
Hello.
First of all, commiserations to both of you guys for the unfortunate sequence of events that happened during the race. I think we've unfortunately seen some things happen. So So look, either of you guys, could you guys please share with us the race from your perspective?
Well, to be fair, think the both of us came out of turn 1 fairly okay, and we were running like 3rd and 5th at one point, if I remember correctly. So,
yeah.
but then it started to all fall apart, like lap 7, lap 8, lap 9, maybe thereabouts. And then, so I spun at Stowe, but it was okay because I could just take an early pit stop and then run to the end. The trouble was, I think about 2 laps after, I spun off at Beckett's and honked it in the wall, broke the engine, and so I had to wait like 10 minutes for repairs / penalty, and then by the time I was back out on track, I was like what 10 laps down or so, and then just trundling along to the end. So while I was in the penalty box, I was watching my fellow Bradley tearing it up in 3rd place. They were challenging Khan for 2nd, I think.
Yeah,
And then disaster struck just as I was watching it. So I think Bradley can tell more about
yes.
that.
Thank you, Bradley. So, the first turn, I think was turn 2 or turn 1. I spun someone round. I didn't know who it is or was. But I just carried on my race. Hoping that he was fine lah. Then, I was behind this guy. I forgot what his name was, but anyways, he was faster than me in certain corners. Like for example, the last corner he was a lot faster, but I was able to catch up with him because even though despite both of us having like mistakes here and there, we were about, I think he was a bit faster than me, but just that I could like capitalize on his mistakes more, and then so that was what kept us very close. And then we both were like, our get right was about the same, but we were catching up on 2nd place. And so once we did, and then I did see 2nd and 3rd place. By the way, I was 4th place here. So
Right.
in front of me, 2nd and 3rd place were fighting, and then I could see them like try to fight lah, and then they were slowing themselves down, and then I was like, oh yes, maybe I should go faster so I can pass them, and then there was one point we were all like 3 abreast going into, I forgot what the corner name is really, but so then I locked up, and then they overtook me again, and then I can imagine that you were like screaming your head off, Wei Han.
Well, I was just trying to put my head around what exactly happened when your 2 front wheels disappeared. Yeah, and well, that was quite a sight.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Then to add on. Then later on, I somehow I got disconnected at, I think, Cops corner, and then when I rejoined, I don't know, because I have the like relative like positions display, and then I also have the display at the bottom. So both of those kind of tell me where I am, but then they were both telling me different things. Like one of them was telling me I was in 12th place, one of them telling me I was in 14th place, and I wasn't very sure where I was. So I wasn't very sure who I was like racing lah. Then I caught up with, I think, Sean and then a few others in 5th and 6th place, and then I may or may not have bumped them. That was totally my fault lah. Or I put my hand up now and say that it was my fault lah. So if Sean, you're watching this, my bad. Please go easy on me.
Well, I'll tell you what happened on our end. We were actually riding on board with you when you disconnected, and it was perhaps one of the funniest things I've ever seen in AC. And I've done quite a bit of commentary on AC. I don't know if you remember Jaime Alguersuari several years ago in China when both of his front wheels disappeared.
That was Buemi.
Oh, sorry, Sebastian Buemi. That's correct.
Buemi.
Yeah, and he lost both of his front wheels. That's exactly what happened to you. We saw you just go straight on. The two front wheels disappeared, and you went somewhere.
Oh my goodness. Well, I went into the Shadow Realm.
Yeah, you went to the alternate dimension there.
Exactly.
Well,
I wish. Sorry.
Sorry, Brad. Yeah, go ahead.
You go first.
No. I was just gonna say. I mean, I'm just glad that you guys had fun, regardless of the result, and I think that's the most important thing with racing here on the community series.
Yeah, we'll come back again next week and try and put a few more points on the board than this time.
Yeah. We'll come back stronger, hopefully.
Yeah. Well,
I like Montreal.
any more questions, Max?
Yeah, looking forward towards Montreal. You mentioned that you liked it. To be honest with you, I sort of have a soft spot for that track, even though not a lot of other people do. But I think they're wrong, and I'm right as usual. What do you think of your chances are coming into the next round?
Oh, okay. For what I know, Montreal is a lot narrower, so there will be more chaos. I'm expecting a lot more chaos, but at the same time, I also like that track. Like I've only driven that track on the F122 mod. I haven't driven it on this year of F1 mod yet, so I've yet to see how. But I really liked it on the F122. I felt like I could push, and then it just felt very rewarding to push, and then you go faster, and it just felt more rewarding than like Silverstone. Like personally, I don't like Silverstone. So yeah.
Yeah, speaking from experience, these cars around Montreal is going to be something special. The 22 cars are a little bit more bulkier than these things. If you set the car up just right, you can really attack those chicanes there. I'm looking forward to watching that race, that's for sure.
Yeah, dang. All right.
All right.
I guess I'm signing off. No champagne for us, so I'll have to find something
fine.
else.
You can always walk downstairs to 7-Eleven and buy. You've got 20 minutes left to buy alcohol from 7-Eleven downstairs.
I'll probably buy the sponsored alcohol, the Johnny Walker. That is a classic livery, I will admit.
Oh yeah.
I do agree.
All right. Thanks again. Thanks for the commentary.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much. And that was Bradley Martins and Bradley Tam from Brad TM Racing. We'll catch up with you guys right after the broadcast as we close this off. Thank you so much, you guys. Have a good night. Right, so Max, I think it was certainly an eventful race. We've heard from both Bradleys, and I think, of course, for one, it's definitely good to hear from the standpoint of participants. That's always a good thing to have. And it would appear that all drivers, they've all had their own diverse experiences despite racing on the same racetrack. And I think that's the whole point behind racing, especially with Formula 1 cars here at Silverstone. But Max, thanks so much for coming on such short notice to cover for Hian on round 4 here at Silverstone. Any closing remarks, Max?
Well, yeah, it's great to come back to the home of British motorsports, and it's nice to come back to your home turf once in a while. But yeah, it's been brilliant racing, and definitely can't wait to see the rest of the series there. Commiserations to Hid for not joining us. We'll have to meet up one of these days and perhaps have a three-way commentary on one of these rounds.
You're reading my mind, man. You read my mind.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure as always.
Oh yeah, likewise. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to round 4 of the Sim Racers Asia Assetto Corsa Community Series Season 12 here on all of the platforms here. So do follow all of us and our platforms on social media. And it has been Max Palmer and myself, Chan Wei Han, bringing you action here from Silverstone. Have a good night. Bye-bye. Bye.